It's Enemy Sidelines presented by Microsoft. My guest this week, Kristen Balboni. She's the team reporter for the Carolina Panthers. It's a short week. It's a Thursday night game. Lots to be excited about. And I'm sure the Panthers are as well with a 2-0 start headed into week 3. How has this season gone for y'all so far? What is the mood like around the building?
Well, Deepi, as you can imagine, starting off 2-0 is pretty good for morale around here. I think everyone, if you talk to the players and the coaches, I was just downstairs talking to Derek Brown, one of our starting D linemen, and they will tell you it's another week. We put it in the past. It's not 2-0, it's 1-0. Each week we are focused on the Texans, but there's no denying that this team is very excited to have started off 2-0 because it really feels like the things that Coach Rule and this coaching staff, which started last year, it's paid off, right? Like the way that they are teaching, the way they are coaching, the way these players are playing, it's all coming together, which was not the case last year. We saw it a little bit at the end of last season, people starting to get comfortable. It's a very young team. So it really feels like some validation, I think, that this very young team has started off 2-0 heading into this Thursday night game.
Yeah, it's the first 2-0 start for the Panthers since 2017, and they do so with quarterback Sam Darnold, who was a big story this offseason. Panthers traded for him. It seems like the change of scenery is doing him well. Last year, he had 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's cut down on the interception number. So, what has he been doing well through these first 2 games? What's really changed for him in this offense?
I think it's different personnel, different coaching staff. So certainly the weapons that he has available to him. Christian McCaffrey is never going to be bad for any quarterback's game stats. There's no doubt about it. And if you look at DJ Moore, you look at Robbie Anderson, and then of course, plenty of young weapons. I can continue to go on. I think that is the biggest thing. But then also working under offensive coordinator Joe Brady and Matt Rule, who's an offensive minded guy. I think those are big. And that's what the Panthers were banking on, both this front office and this coaching staff, that change of scenery, that the specific plan and the plans that they had for him, Sam Darnold coming in here, would pay off. Even if they didn't pay off for the Jets, that this coaching staff could get him where they wanted him to be, could utilize his talents. And I've heard our offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, say, we don't need him to do everything. We don't need him to be Superman. We don't need him to be what the Jets needed him to be. We just need him to play well, to know what he's doing, and go out there and win. And it seems like it's working.
You mentioned Christian McCaffrey, who, you're right, he's certainly a great addition to anyone's tool belt. He has put up some impressive numbers, as he usually does, but right now currently leading the NFL in yards from scrimmage. He leads all running backs in catches. And for the Panthers, he's the leading rusher, and he's tied as the leading receiver right now. So with that being said, is Christian McCaffrey an even bigger part of that offense? I don't even know if that's possible, but is he a bigger part of that offense? And if so, how much of a concern is his durability?
I think he is as big as anyone wants to make him. He is that important to this team. I don't think we can overstate it enough, even though, as you said, it's odd to say like, oh yeah, he's even more important than he's been in years past. When you look at his usage rates in years past, they're just as high. I think that he's one of the best players in the NFL, right? And so you're going to utilize him as much as possible. And as you said, his versatility with receiving and being able to run the ball like nobody else. It's just, why would you not just hand it off to him every single time, which I think is what Sam Darnold has done a little bit. And also, as a check down option, it's very comfortable for Sam Darnold. So I think he is so huge, so important to this offense. And we saw it last year when he didn't play. He was only available for 3, really 2.5 games. And, you do wonder, Panthers fans do wonder what would last season have looked like if he was available, because you just cannot, as I said, overstate the importance of what he brings to this offense, or, frankly, any offense that he would be on. He's just that good at what he does. But of course, with that, and you mentioned the numbers, you also mentioned how many reps he's getting. Of course, there's going to be durability concerns, especially considering his injury history last year. I don't think that anyone is concerned about him right now, but they want to make sure that they're developing the guys behind him, whether that's Royce Freeman, who's a new addition to the Panthers, or Chuba Hubbard, a rookie that we have seen a lot of. Joe Brady has said, we want Christian to be we want him to feel good. We want him to be available in the fourth quarter. That is when we need him. So if we need to rest him before that and bring in some of these other guys, which we've seen a little bit of, that's what we'll do, because having him available, ready to go, feeling fresh when it matters is the ultimate plan. That's what they want. They want to make sure that they're protecting him. However, when you have him out on the field or when you have him available, how do you not hand the ball to him? So I think that's what, if you look at any of the past coaching staffs that he's worked with, everyone will say that, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on his touches. We want to make sure that he's not going over a certain amount, whatever that might be, to this offensive coordinator or the staff. But when you have him there and the game is on the line, it's a close game or whatnot, he's your best option. So I think it's also hard in practice to get away from wanting him on the field every single play.
Yeah, certainly can see that. Well, let's switch gears and talk about defense for a moment, because that Carolina Panthers defense has been really impressive as well for the first two games. I did recheck these stats. So 10 sacks through the first two games, and they've allowed a league low of 46.5 rushing yards per game on average. So less than 50 yards a game rushing, 10 sacks. They haven't allowed anyone to score in the first half of a game this year through their first two games. So what's been the key to such a hot start for this Panthers defense? Because it seems like they're doing it all. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. They're stopping the run. They're getting takeaways. It's pretty much as complete of a defense as you could draw up, wouldn't you say?
I think so. And it's funny. I am with this team. I cover them every day. But even when you see that they're at the top of the leaderboard defensively through 2 weeks, I had to even look at the stats and go, oh gosh, like, this is how they compare to the other teams in the NFL. So you're not the only one there. I think they might even be a little surprised about what they've been able to do. But to me, it comes down to two things. And we touched on this a little bit earlier, which is, I think, these young guys that they drafted and brought in last year. So last year, they drafted 7 defensive players. And so we're seeing those guys mature. Your Jeremy Chins, who's just been a revelation. He can do it all. He's really a Swiss Army knife. He was drafted in the second round last year. Derek Brown is another one. Yetur Gross-Matos. These young defenders are really starting to come into their own. We saw it at the end of last season a little bit, but of course there were some holes that they needed to fill. And then through the draft and free agency, they've been able to plug those holes. They also have Dante Jackson back, one of our starting corners, who really missed the majority of last season with turf toe. So he's back. They draft his counterpart over there, JC Horn, who, I mean, he just looks like he's like a full grown man. You would not think he was a rookie just looking at him, or a DB really. I mean, he's huge. He's a large man. So you have these new pieces. And then on the D line, which is really where everything starts, they did quite a lot at free agency. So they brought in Morgan Fox, Daquan Jones. Hassan Reddick is another Swiss Army knife. He's contributing 3 of those sacks to the 10 total that you just mentioned. So it really feels like, as I said, with the way this coaching staff wants to play, this is the year, or at least the start of the year, where it's all coming together, where their messages, the way they want to play, everyone doing their job, being in their gap, that's where it starts. The sound fundamentals are all paying off. They have people that can execute what they want to do. And then you see these young guys really getting comfortable. And then some of the veterans they brought in, it just seems like everything is meshing well.
You mentioned the young guys. Let's talk about that receiving core, because it seems like they've gotten younger at receiver. They've sort of let go some of the veteran receivers and some new faces there in the receiving core. Tell me about the receivers. You mentioned DJ Moore a little while ago, what they do well and how they've really meshed in their chemistry with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is younger. It's one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and they just get younger and younger each season. But certainly the receiver position is no exception. Robbie Anderson, I guess, is technically a little bit older than the other guys, which is funny because we talk about it if you ask Robbie or DJ Moore, they would say Robbie is the big brother, and then DJ Moore is the middle brother. And last year it was Curtis Samuel, who is now with Washington. He was the little brother that kind of rounded out that trio. They were trying to bring a very, very young receiver rookie, Terrace Marshall, into the family, as Robbie would say. And Terrace Marshall is starting. So he was drafted in the second round coming out of LSU, dealt with some injuries over the offseason, or was rehabbing. The Panthers knew about them and were totally ready for them, but we didn't really see him until training camp. So they knew he had to get right. And he just made a big impression in training camp and in the preseason. And he's earned that starting spot. He's coming out of the slot a lot in that starting lineup. and he's a rookie, of course. So he's one of these guys that, he's got a lot to learn. I think Joe Brady called him clay, like where you can mold him, that the end product is going to be there. Joe Brady spending some time with him at LSU when he was there as well. He said, the end product is going to be there, but he's still got a lot to learn. And then you have, just a totally young receiving core in general. DJ Moore feels like a veteran as really, I guess, the number one option there. I mean, he's only been in the league really for a few years too. So it's funny how relative it is. And Shi Smith, we have not seen him play, but he was drafted as well. He is recovering from an injury, and we expect him to see, maybe on Thursday night, not sure. It's just interesting to see Robbie Anderson is the vet at like 27, but I think they're all incredibly talented. Certainly receiver is one of the strengths of this team. And I'm excited to see what else they can do and watch these young guys come along.
Well, we're excited for the Thursday night matchup. Kristen, what other storylines are you working on as the Panthers and Texans head into this game?
I think, and it'll certainly be the same for the Texans. I'm very interested to see how this team does on a short week. You and I were just talking about what our schedules look like on a short week, but for the Panthers, they've really got 2 days before heading out on Wednesday to travel and then playing on Thursday. And I remember this turnaround last year. And for these young guys, this is something that's pretty new. So even if they're second year guys, they've only been through it once, and we were the home team last year. So you've got 2 days to get your body right, to recover. They'll have one practice on Tuesday, and that's it. So, they're in this routine. They found these things that work for them. But it's all going to change this week. So I think that's going to be really interesting. It's the first 2 games have been at home, and they've had the benefit of the home crowd, which has been great. It's nice to have everyone back, and certainly the defense can feel it, when the crowd jumps in on third down. So this is going to be the first road game, and it's on an extremely, extremely short week. So I'll be interested to see how this very young group of players responds with this adversity.
All right, Kristen, we're looking forward to it. Can't wait for Thursday night. Panthers here at the Texans. Kristen Balboni, team reporter for the Carolina Panthers. Kristen, a pleasure. Can't wait to see you.
Yeah, can't wait to see you then. It's going to be great.